I like get to know you guys better, and it's great. But I've also been to like some really kind of iffy guys' nights, and I think that some people definitely know what I'm talking about. Because sometimes it's just like straight up unbiblical, and that's like obviously bad. But some of them are just like kind of a bummer and like way too intense. Because we'll split up, and the girls are on one side, just like getting told how loved and precious they are, and making like a million new best friends. And then the dudes are locked in, talking about how we need to bear our cross and quit masturbating. There's a person getting water right there. Anyways, the bad ones are like, they're really easy to laugh about, right? And like most of it's harmless, because like, let's be honest, fellas, we gotta lock down on that. But I do also think it's indicative, like the difference between the guys and girls splits is indicative of like this big fight in our culture and in our churches about what a man is and what a man should be. Almost all of the direction in the Bible from Jesus and the apostles, almost all, not all, is on like how to be a good Christian is the same regardless of gender. And because of that, there's just like not always a ton of material to work with when people do guys and girls nights. And so as an extension, people will often read their own like political or philosophical or cultural views of what a man should be, and they'll read that into the text instead of letting the text inform their opinions. This can often be well-intended, but it really creates this like idealized, super narrow view of a man that's usually not made in the image of Jesus. It's like made in the image of Samson or David. And those guys are great, but that's not the only way. In my life, I've really tried to fit into a lot of like narrow boxes of what a man should be. I think from the outside, it kind of looks like I might check like a lot of those like traditionally masculine boxes. I like to lift weights and fix cars. I have a motorcycle. I think like beer and football totally kick ass, because they do. And I like all those things like on my own, but that couldn't make me more of a biblical man, because I haven't gone to seminary, but I don't think that ESPN and Vasa Fitness were around when the Bible was written. So if you think that makes you more of a man of God, it probably doesn't. Anyways, but despite some of these like masculine traits that I have, I struggled a lot growing up feeling like man enough for God. When I was a kid and a teenager, I grew up in a very conservative environment. And so pretty much all the like masculine influences I had on my life, all the Christian men in my life, were football coaches or like blue collar guys, military, ex-military. You can kind of think of who I'm talking about. And that was not a bad thing. There was like so many great lessons from them that I learned. It's super cliche, but like I still think of things that my high school football coach told me sometimes. And I think I have a good work ethic, and that's like a downstream result of those positive influences. But there are some negative side effects too, because I also ended up feeling that I was too empathetic to be a good Christian man. And I thought that I didn't like guns enough to be a man of God. And I thought that all vulnerability was weakness. If you know me, you know I like almost never open up. And a lot of that's because of that. And I thought that when I like got to college, I'd be able to like really just get it locked down and be like, okay, the manhood thing, like I got it. But then I got here and it's like way more confusing, because you have this one side at the U where it's like anything masculine is just terrible and oppressive and wrong. And so that anything related to power or strength or even like protection and chivalry just gets written off. It's toxic. And it's super unfair and it's just kind of dumb. But you also have this other side that's maybe even worse, that tries to use masculine traits as a way to dominate and grab power. This is like the Andrew Tate, Liver King type vibe, right? Where a dude, he makes a lot of money, he's super jacked, he gets laid, he eats red meat off of a cutting board, and posts about it on Instagram. I don't know what's up with that, but as we read in Judges, these are the guys that do right in their own eyes. And they don't really care about anyone else. It's not very Christ-like. It's not very blessed are the meek. Over the summer, I was a wildland firefighter, and a lot of those guys that I worked with were like pretty gruff, like strong guys. And they were super rad. But I had one kind of wacky coworker who was convinced that every man could be put into one of two categories. They were either a hunter or a gatherer. So ask yourself which one. No. And later in the summer, we were having a conversation on a fire, which was weird, but and I refused to call gay people the same slur that he called them. And because of that, he referred to me not by my name, but by gatherer for 2 weeks. You could laugh, it's pretty funny, right? But I also think, like, it was a good joke, but also, he thought that I was less of a man because I wasn't willing to bully a vulnerable person. And if that's what it means to be a man, I'm not that type of man, and none of you should be either. All of these stories just kind of show this struggle that I've experienced, and probably a lot of you guys have experienced, where you're not nearly like man enough for one group, but you're way too masculine for another group. And it sucks, and I hope you guys don't have to deal with that, because I know that it can feel really frustrating to kind of not know where you fit in. But the good news is, kind of as Jason explained, Jesus is the example of masculinity that is infinitely better than any box that the world could provide. There's a lot of good men in the Bible, and a lot of them are different, which is a good thing, because we're all different. There's not this one kind of cookie-cutter view of what a Christian man should be, because I think our community and our fellowship needs really strong, assertive voices. We need Davids and Moseses. But we also need guys like Barak, who are willing to submit to other authorities. Jason hit on this a lot more thoroughly, but like the book of Judges is filled with all of these dudes. They use their like military power to justify violence and like terrible crimes. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that one of the only men in the entire book of Judges that does anything good for Israel is the one that was willing to take instruction from a woman rather than give instruction. Kind of on that note, I don't know if I'm like super qualified, so take it or leave it. But I think like it's good to have a challenge, right? Dude, I want a challenge, yeah. So I want you guys to man up, but not in the way that you think. Man up and put other people's needs above your own. Man up and admit that you're wrong. Man up and start treating the women in your life as image bearers of the Christ and not a prize to be won. Be a man and make friends with a queer or transgender person on campus. Make friends, be gentle and empathetic, and love sacrificially like Jesus did. That's all I got.